Hello, my name is Starlight. Welcome to my YouTube channel, and I'm reaching out to all of you beautiful souls out there. I hope you're able to get out in nature like Starlight is. And this is such a beautiful breeze, and I am enjoying this. This is perfect right now. It's like around dinner time for most people, depending on what time you eat dinner. So Starlight's been working on her vegetables and getting everything ready. So yeah, come on out, on the weekends or when you have your time off is, you know, figure on, like, bring your food outside. Starlight does this all the time. I am like camping, really. It's a dream come true. What can I say? I love to camp, so figure out what kind of meal you want, and get your family or friends or whoever start and come out, take a day trip, and get your kids out. I seen a family out earlier. They were out on kayaks, and it was two daughters, a husband and wife, which I said, hey, this is great, you guys are out, and I asked them if this was their whole family, and I said, wow, this is so awesome that you're all out as a family. And they said, yeah, we thought that we should do this more often, so that was really good. That was a good comeback answer. And it's hard to get teenagers to go anywhere, and that's why you got to make things exciting. You always got to switch things up, find out what they like. That way you can get them to come with you. That way, you know what, when you spend more time with your kids and you show that you're interested in spending time with them, it would help them so they don't get drawn into the wrong things out in the world. So anyway, I love you all, and if you are new to my YouTube channel, welcome. And you could find me on YouTube, and that is at Starlight, and that is Kathy with a K Dingman. Plus, you could give this video a thumbs up, and you could subscribe to my YouTube channel. Plus, don't forget, you can, don't be afraid, don't be shy, swing by and say hi, Starlight. And you can leave me a message down below, beep, beep, beep. And you can also check out my playlist. Plus, you could find me on Instagram at 1995 Starlight, or on Facebook, and that is Kathy with a K Dingman Starlight. And a big, huge thank you to all of you who love and support my YouTube channel, or maybe you are new to my YouTube channel. Welcome. I appreciate all of you. Thank you for giving me a thumbs up. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for leaving me a comment down below. And I do have to say, I am sorry. I am late on my video today, is because Starlight has been moving around and there was absolutely no service, for me to actually edit my videos. So if that happens, it's more likely a technical problem that I'm having, either with my phone or the services, where I am. So anyway, today's video is like, how do you know, like, maybe you do know, maybe you don't know, but did you know that you could be guided by the universe or God? The universe, God, whatever name, or higher power, because I talked to some ladies today, and even a couple ladies last night, sweet people, and we all agreed to the same stuff. They're like, yes, I actually believe that, and I was teaching them how the universe has been guiding Starlight, from New York all the way to where I am right now, and it's a wonderful journey. It's got it's got its ups, it's got its down, it's got its challenging times, like being in a stream of water. There's times that the water is nice and smooth, not a lot of waves, and other times on this journey, especially after the rain, it is, when it really, you get like maybe a couple days of really downpour and you go in that same stream. Well, I'll tell you what, Starlight had to learn the hard way. I almost thought I was going to kill myself, not purposely, but Starlight had no clue what she was doing. Long time ago, when I was in the cult church, I was still wearing dresses or skirts. That day it was a skirt, and I had two teenagers with me. We all had blow-up tubes, and it was pretty rocky, and I've never been in that stream. That was don't ever do that again, Starlight. I was, talk about praying as I'm being whipped around like nothing on the waves, and I actually had enough strength to get off and stop as the water was pushing me down the stream, and to tell the teenagers, my stepson at the time and my own son, is to get off. I was letting them know, get off of your tube. And so they did. They stopped, and vroom, it took me down, and I got banged up really bad. So sometimes in life we go through challenges like that. And Starlight, her skirt went upside down. I got marked up a little bit by banging against some rocks, because boom, I think I lost my tube, so it threw me right off. It was a little too rocky for Starlight, but guess what? That was a lesson. Starlight had no clue, what she was doing, and I was protected. So in life, if you're not paying attention, if you're too distracted and, going places that really don't matter, and, sometimes people get so busy, they don't even have a life, they're working so hard, they're paying for the bills, they're paying for the car. That's why you got to be careful of all these traps, they're all traps, like, oh, I got to impress my friends by, getting this car, where you could have gotten one that was cheaper if you're going to do payments. But no, there's people that will go get a car, and because they want to impress people. But how much are the payments? Starlight was doing payments before with 2 lease cars before. The second one totaled. Not even 2 weeks, boom, there goes that brand new lease car. So you really got to be mindful of what you're doing in your life. Are you too distracted to even notice? Because Starlight was there once upon a time. I didn't know that God, the universe, throughout my whole life was trying to guide me, and I never seen the signs. I never, why? Because I was too worried about how I was going to pay my bills. I was too worried about taking care of my family, and running it. And Starlight was like a superhero, running around, trying to help this person, trying to help that person, but I forgot about myself. And that is what I've learned on this journey, is you first God, then you, then your closest loved ones, if you have a husband or wife, boyfriend or girlfriend, your kids or your mom or dad, depending on your situation. So we get so distracted that we don't even see the signs. They're there all the time. It's almost like being blind your whole life. And then when you go through a spiritual awakening, like Starlight has several times, really powerful spiritual awakenings where it put me into the hospital because they were, God was sending me there to the hospital so I can learn some things in the hospital and learn more about myself and the world. So when that happened, that was a wake-up call, just like COVID was my wake-up call. And but those spiritual awakenings was like, wow. I mean, Starlight's like, can I have more, universe? I'm one of the few that really, at the time it was pretty wild going on my spiritual awakening. Some people did not like going through their spiritual awakenings. They dread it. They wish they never had it. Where Starlight was like, wow, I want more of that, So it was a freaking trip. And if you ever go on, have a spiritual awakening where crazy shit happens and you're not on drugs. No, you're not on drugs, but the God is putting you through something to wake you up, to let you see that you are powerful. You are smarter than you think. You are stronger than you know. And that is what I learned on that spiritual awakening. I was like, wow, and so that was very powerful. And that was when I started getting numbers. That is when 1010, those are the numbers that everybody has a different story. Everybody has different numbers that stick out to them when they're going on a spiritual journey. Not a spiritual journey, a spiritual awakening. So so when you start doing that, when you start getting those numbers, repeated numbers, and God can use repeated numbers or numbers that stand out. And that happened to me today, where a guy helped me out, gave me information that I didn't know. And it was because God sent me to that gas station where the guy and his friends, or whoever, family or friends or whatever, they were spending the night in that vehicle. And then he told me something I needed to know. I asked God the question the day before, and I was like, God, what's wrong with my car? And so I had no clue what was wrong with my car. But God used this man to tell me. That's how this works. That's how I've been guided. When you ask questions, then now what you got to listen to your intuition. And when I decide to go somewhere, I go on on the maps. Then I'm letting the universe, God, guide me to where I need to go. Sometimes it's just little steps to get there, because there's things that I have to do on the way on this journey. There's people that need help, on this journey. Like this morning, I prayed and I said, God, if somebody needs help today, bring them out here. And you know what? I did. I got to bump in some people today, like the guy that I told you about. I gave him information, and, I helped him out because I said, you know what? God's already got it taken care of. And then I met 3 ladies today. You know what? The mother, it was the mother, the daughter, and I think the granddaughter, they were all together. And the grandmother, her daughter actually was telling her mother, you don't want to let your car run below like a quarter tank of gas, because if you do, you can have car issues. But the mother wasn't listening to her daughter and would always run out of gas, run it down low. And then I come along, I didn't know that they were going through this. I didn't know nothing, but God sent me there. And it could, and I believe I saved her a lot of money because now this lady that I met today, guess what she's going to do? Make sure she doesn't run the car completely empty. That way she doesn't have to get the starter fixed later on. So God could have used me in that situation to help her out. And I told these ladies, I said, it's no accident that we're here. They were sitting outside. I never see this at any gas stations, but these are gas stations out in the country where they have a big bench right outside. And so yesterday there was a couple men that were probably friends or family. They were sitting on that bench. And today it was this family that was sitting on that bench. So I was talking to them for a good half hour, even longer, helping them out and building up their confidence, building up their faith in God, that, or the universe, how I've been guided. A lot of people will ask me, what, you're from New York? And then they know that they don't see anybody with me, and they're like, well, the first question everybody asks me is, well, what are you doing here? What brought you to here? And I tell everybody the same answer. And so there's been many people that says, oh, yes, the universe is awesome, yes. I met guys on a motorcycle today. The one guy didn't want to hear nothing about God. And I said, well, I'm on a spiritual journey here, and, I'm all about the universe. Now, when I spoke that kind of language, his buddy actually said, yes, the universe is awesome, because a lot of people have been affected the word God, the name God. So that's why I kind of go back and forth, universe or God, because there's people like myself that have been affected by cult churches out in the world. And so sometimes, even though God, the universe, or higher power, it's the same thing, the same God, but some people get offended if you don't use a certain name to describe the same, God. So it was amazing, though, how I was able to meet different people, and a lot of anybody that has met me, what are you doing here? How did you get here? And I'm like, well, the universe guided me here. I am on a mission. So, and then I tell them a little bit of information about how this works by like numbers. Like today, I got a number today, I'm like, so, and I couldn't look it up because my internet wasn't working at the time. And then today I got a number. That's a confirmation. I have questions. Okay, God, So those are ways that I've been guided on this journey here, as far as my self-discovery, spiritual journey here. And it's about finding out what my life purpose is. And this is what I've been able to do since I started out in New York. If I never left in New York, eventually, the way things were going at that time in New York, before I left, I would have been at a 9-to-5 job. I would have been scraping again, barely having enough money for the rent and the paying for my car, like to keep the car on the road. And that is why they never wanted us to be able to make it. Like anybody that's single, that's the only income that they have in their house. Everything you think you could be scraping from paycheck to paycheck. Starlight knows what this is like. And all it takes is one thing, bam, to throw the wrench in there, and all of it just, you could scrape every single, never having any extra money, because that's how they made this system. That's the purposely, whether you got a GED or you graduated or have a diploma or you don't, it doesn't matter. That's what I learned. It doesn't matter. So is they purposely had it so it doesn't work out. There's a lot of I was a single mom with 2 kids. How the frig was I going to make this happen, without having to go to the government for help? That is their thing. They didn't have things set up long time ago like they do now for single moms, trying to have a car and trying to bring their kids up, and to have what money at the end of the month, So you can be guided by the universe in life. Numbers, repeated numbers, numbers that stand out. So you got to pay attention. You don't want to, you got to focus and see what's going on. And there's signs all the time. There's signs that I still have not learned yet. Animals are another way to get messages from the universe. And when you see an animal, and it doesn't have to be an animal that's live right in front of you. Like I had a beautiful dream last night with butterflies. So what does it mean when you see a butterfly? That's the universe and God speaking to you and giving you a message. It could be saying, hey, things are coming, good luck, there's good luck here, you're gonna do good financially, or abundance is flowing, or whatever. You can get all kinds of messages. You could get an animal and it could tell you hey, you have somebody that is not being honest with you, because that animal has like a message for you that, different, like snakes, there's different meanings with what kind of snake was it. Was it a big snake? Was it a small snake? What color snake? And that, so numbers and animals, it could be an animal that's on a truck and you go by and you're like, there's like I've seen this, a scorpion, on some kind of business truck. I've seen like a rhino gas station. What does it mean when you see a rhino, So it is amazing how the universe will guide you. And you got to ask questions. And that's what I've been doing. Okay, universe, please take me out of my own way. I want you to come and use me. Use my legs, use my arms, use my eyes, use my voice. Please guide me today to help me to know where I'm supposed to be, where, and I was in one area and I was talking to people because I had no internet connection in that area, because there's no service in that area. Every single person that I talked to and asked questions, because I had no service, didn't know where to go, didn't know where anything was, kind of like being blind, is that every single person told me to go to the same town. That is how the universe guides you. You got to listen. Got to pay attention, not just your eyes and what you see. Don't get distracted. That is what they're doing out in this matrix, is distract you so you don't pay attention to what is right in front of you. It's right in front of you, just like movies, the same stuff that they do in movies. If you ever watch on TV, I think it's cool when they do this, is like the movie The Matrix. There's people that have watched the beginning of that movie and they know symbolism. They understand, the clothing that these the Hollywood stars pick. Everything that has been picked has been purposely picked because they're all clues and signs to get a deeper understanding of what these videos or these movies or documentaries are, trying to give you clues to. Even cartoons that I grew up with, Alice in the Wonderland. There's so many things that we can pick out of there, and if you are awake enough, you're going to understand what they're trying to tell you. But like a child can watch that same cartoon and they're like, oh, that was cute, and they might just take it one way, but everybody's going to take it a different way. Just like the Bible. I could read one of the books in the Bible. You could read a book, the same book in the Bible, and like say we have 10 people reading this, or even just a chapter in the Bible, all of us are going to have something different. What we think that means, if we said, okay, what do you think that means? What did you get out of that? And I noticed when I read my Bible over and over again, every time I read my Bible over and over again, I got a different help, a different wisdom, different knowledge, even though I read it over and over again. And I would get to a certain book and I'm like, wow, I didn't get that wisdom and knowledge the first or second time I read the same thing, but this time now I got information that I needed, So it is really interesting. And dreams are another way, that the universe will guide you. But if you don't take time to study your dreams and write them down, yes, it does take time. But this is what you got to learn on this journey here. You got to be patient. If I just this is what happens. This is what used to happen to Starlight. I'm calm now. There's stuff that I'm going through. Only actually 2 people really know about, that knows me, knows what I'm going through right now. But if I let that thing control me, where I'm like, oh no, what am I going to do? This is really horrible. This is really bad. Oh my. That's fear. That fear is not good. That fear is going to trip you up. That fear, when we are afraid of shit, that we're going to actually, it's going to cause us to make the wrong choices. In the Bible, it says not to, be quick, not to, I think the same word is haste, haste not. You're not supposed to be hurrying up and doing, no. That's where you're missing out the information. You're missing out on the signs because you already ran ahead of God. God already had all this all set up for you, because it happened to me all my life. I didn't know, and panic, I'd get all panicked and stressed out and worrying. Or now I'm like, you know what? God has taken care of me this whole journey here. I'm not worrying about it. I don't know how God's going to take care of this. I don't know when. I don't know who is God going to use to help me out in this. But it doesn't matter. All I know is God already took care of it. That's what I was helping these ladies out today. I don't know how. I don't know when. So I got to learn to be patient. I got to learn to, trust that God's already got it figured out. If I panic and I do it my way, I'm going to totally miss out on what God can do. And that's why it's so important that you let go and let God. I love you so much. And people are the other way. Like I am like, God can use people, and it doesn't matter. God doesn't care what person that God can use. God can use your enemy. I don't have any enemies. If anybody has a problem with me, it's not my problem. It's their problem. But I don't have any enemies. God could use people that you don't even like, that you have a problem with, and God can use that person. And you know what, it's kind of cool is God will mess with you a little bit on that, because you're like, I got the message, and I don't like this person. I have an issue with this person. But then when you're alone and when you're by yourself, you realize that you needed that information, but you don't want to admit to it. And you're trying to sort it out in your head. You're like, And then God actually, has a way of possibly softening up your heart. Maybe you're not going to look at that person the same way anymore, because now you're like, God used that person to give you exactly what you needed. And now it's like, it changes you. It helps you out. So your heart doesn't get hardened over that person. And, so maybe you'll look at that person differently, knowing that God. And when God does this, say thank you. Thank you. You used that person. I've had issues with that person, but you used that person where you can get right with that person now. You can get right with God and say, you know what? That dude or that girl, that was 10 years ago. Why am I still holding on that shit today? You know, really, why are you still hanging on that shit still today? Not shit, not, you know, like that would be really nasty, right? But anyway, God uses anyone. And I love you so much. So is the universe guiding you? Why not? You got to pay attention. Sometimes, you know, people, I make videos and people don't believe in it. Well, you're the one missing out. You are. You're going to miss out on what God, the universe, is actually trying to reveal to you because of pride, because of thinking that you know it all. I don't know it all, but I know that the universe has guided me, and this is how I've been getting help along the way. God will guide me. God will, my intuition. Listen to your intuition. Listen to your gut. You know, there's people that are trying to help you out. You might be ignoring it, you know, and then after you went and did it your way, then you're kind of remembering, you know, shit, I ignored that. I ignored that person. I ignored that sign. I know, you know, then it's like, but then you forget that too, because then you get distracted in life. Life happens. So here I am telling you, you could be guided by the universe, or you might be one of those people out there. I know one person that is definitely being guided by the universe, God. So anyway, I love you. You could give this video a thumbs up, and you could subscribe to my YouTube channel. Plus, you can leave me a message down below, beep, beep, beep. And when I do these videos, you could share my videos with your family or friends. A butterfly, and also crickets, because I'm hearing these animals, these little animals, but I don't know if it's a cricket or not out here making these noises. But yes, Jimmy the Cricket. Now, what does it mean? You know, I mean, you're going to see these animals on my videos. Have you ever looked those up? Anyway, I love you. This is Starlight. Namaste. This is Starlight. Love, light, and peace.